Hello everybody and welcome back to Video Game Therapy. I'll be your player one marker, Mopkins78. Today's been a weird day. It's Wednesday. We're back with a short hike. I still have no idea where I'm going or what I'm doing. I'm not using a controller either, but that's kind of irrelevant. But today we're talking more about free will. I think I talked about it a bit in the past, but I'm not entirely certain. But yeah, so I had a bit of an existential mental breakdown today. And long story short, I'm gonna move this mic a little bit here. Hopefully this doesn't interrupt things. I was thinking a lot about my purpose, what it means to make something that exists beyond you. So, oh my god, I never knew I could do this. What the heck? Well, this is new. Anyway, I was thinking a lot about my purpose, how I can make something that exists beyond my lifespan, or lifetime. Either one works. Just don't do both at the same time, brain. Thank you. You know, because we all have a physical body, right? Physical death, physical self, and then we have a conceptual self, as Mark Manson calls it. Which I think is a good way to put it. Like, what's your legacy, right? And I was watching SAO again recently as well. And for those of you who don't know, Sword Art Online, it's an anime about virtual reality. It's got some weird stuff going on in it, I won't lie. But the premise of it is, it's incredibly fascinating. And it makes me think about free will. And if you've seen it, maybe you know why. But for a while, I've seen free will as something that exists only because it doesn't, or free will not existing only because it does. And I've never been able to sum this up in a nice and concise sentence. So I'm gonna put my glasses because I need to look on the whiteboard behind me. But what I came up with today, excuse the squeaking chair, was free will is nothing without it being defined by the definition of its absence. Now, this makes perfect sense to me, this sentence. It is the best and most concise definition of free will that I personally believe I can come up with. Obviously, it's my own thoughts. So it might not make sense to anyone else. Probably doesn't. So to explain it, how I was explaining it to the imaginary person in my head, 'cause that's how I think. I usually have conversations with random people in my head. It'd be like that sometimes. I was explaining it. Imagine you were in a room with walls. And this was just a singular room with four walls, just a very standard room, a floor and a ceiling closed off. And there's a door, and that door led immediately to the outside. It's like a cabin in the woods, but that was like a one-room cabin, right? Now, there's an inside, which is inside the cabin, and there's an outside, which is outside the cabin, specifically outside the walls of the cabin. Makes sense, right? Now, there's an inside and there's an outside. I think we can all very clearly agree that the inside would be inside the cabin and the outside would be the nature. Now, suppose you get rid of the cabin and you're just standing outside. Is there still an outside? I mean, technically, but no. You are outside, but you're outside of the cabin, but the cabin isn't there. So are you still outside of the cabin? Hopefully this makes sense. But my point is, the word outside is relative to inside, and inside is relative to outside. Right now I'm inside my home. If I stepped outside, I would be outside my home. Free will, in my opinion, works the same way. The lack of free will, in other words, laws, maybe, rules, the biological clocks and ticking that our body does is why free will exists. It is the sole reason. How have I never found this before? Can I not get up here? Bro, what? That's nuts. Anyway, so this is just a ramble, and I just need to talk about something because I don't want to do my other work, but this is on my to-do list. Anyway, we can only act out of our acts of free will, and I'll get into some examples in a minute, because we do not have free will. But we do have free will. See how complicated this gets? right? It's hard to explain in the concept of free will. So free will is nothing. In other words, free will doesn't exist without it being defined by the definition of its absence. And this can be inverted to say the same thing. So, you know, if we were truly free agents, I don't even, you know, that's a whole other thing in of itself. But one example that I've been thinking about a lot recently, and it's what SAO originally made me think about when I first watched it, was the strength of willpower over the system of biology. Because what happens in SAO is virtual reality world, they get stuck, and a key plot, I don't know if this is a spoiler, I don't really know if it spoils anything, honestly, but a key plot point is that someone's willpower overrides the rules of the system. In other words, this is not what happens, but, you know, based on the rules of the game, you can't fly. They willed that they could fly, and they started flying, right? They broke the rules of the game because of their willpower. And it's fascinating to think about that in isolation, because it's not, you know, a coded system. Like, just because I will my bird to fly high doesn't mean it can. Bro, there's so much of this game I haven't seen or just totally forgotten about. I gotta really come back and play this again. Anyway, I have a whole video on SAO and free will, but long story short, there's a quote from, I don't even want to call it antagonist. He's one of the main characters in a sense, Kayaba, and he says something about how you were a player that showed me that the rules of my world could be broken. That willpower is able to supersede the rules of the system. And dude, goddamn, I mean, that show, dude. I mean, there's so many things wrong with it. Don't get me wrong, but the implications behind, you know. Anyway, we're not going to go into that anymore. But I'm sorry, this is VGT in a nutshell. Free will. And for me, right now, for the past year and a half or 2 years, has been primarily, if not solely, about the battle between what I want as a conscious entity. I should major in philosophy at this point. And what my body wants as a biological animal, so to speak. You see that cookie in the cookie jar, you eat it, and you think yum. And then you're like, I want another one because damn, that artificial sugar is good, bro. But then you're thinking, no, don't get that. You know, you had a cookie. It's fine. You don't, like, I don't actually want that cookie. Sucker. And yet you get the cookie anyway. And I'm sure many people have experienced this in one form or another. You're eating Oreos and you say, okay, just one more, and then you go for another one. Or you're watching YouTube and you say, okay, just one more, and then you go for another one. And that's our biological system at work. That's our biological clock ticking away. For me, that's huge. And fighting my biology has been my big thing for the past year and a half. And I believe this fight, whatever you want to call it, has been the source of my own personal growth in several ways. One example might be dieting. I went on a keto diet for 5 to 6 months, technically 9 months, but there was like a 2-month break somewhere in between there. Because I said, okay, you want carbs and artificial sugars. I don't want that. So my discipline overruled it for a while. That to bring this back to free will, it's like the question of whether or not we have free will over ourselves is such a challenge. I have this book, Will to Power by Nietzsche. I haven't opened it yet because I'm genuinely scared to read Nietzsche, but I just think it's a really fascinating question. Can your internal monologue become loud enough? Oh, my shoulder, I'm sorry. Can your internal monologue become loud enough to say, no, don't eat that extra cookie. No, don't watch that extra YouTube video. Because what I was thinking about a lot today and what kind of broke me is that I want to run every morning, right? I want to wake up in the morning and be disciplined enough to run. And I did it for 3 or 4 days in a row. I didn't the last 2 days, and I told myself it's because it was 2 feet of snow outside. And it breaks me because I don't know if that's my choice or not. I don't know if that's me saying, yeah, there's 2 feet of snow outside, don't run. Because I've been very sedentary the past couple of months, and it's been showing. And, or it's, you know, my biology going, no, that takes effort. That's something you don't want to do. There's resistance there. Let's not do it. Here's the reason why. And so I started thinking about, well, why am I running? And I don't really have a reason to. You know, I did keto to lose weight, and I was losing weight for a few reasons. And I was working out, and, you know, for martial arts, there's no set date on things, and it's conditional. And all of a sudden I was getting in my head, and now I'm, you know, quote unquote back to normal. I run because, if nothing else, run for those who can't. And yeah, that's pretty much it, honestly. It's just these questioning our own actions, and questioning specifically our own inactions. Because, you know I want to make a lot of YouTube videos for my lifestyle channel. I really enjoy it, and I want to make more videos for that channel. I do want that channel to genuinely grow. I want this one to grow too, but it's those moments when I sit down and edit and I think, oh man, blah. But then I'm like, but I want to do this, right? I really do want to do this, and yet I have never seen this in my life, and yet my biology is like, nah, this takes work, bro. Nah, bro, this takes work. And excuse me, it's this question of, you know, it comes down to free will. We in our bodies that say go for that extra Oreo, that's not free will. That is being contained by biology. I consider the lack of free will to be the rules of biology, or mindlessly, emphasis on mindlessly, obeying the rules of law. Because you can only break rules if there are rules, right? You can only have free will, or you can only have free will if there isn't. That's actually a much better way of explaining it. Just like you have rules, and you can only break rules if there are rules, you can only have free will if there isn't any. In my opinion, at least. And I don't know if anyone said this, or people probably said it before, but you go for that extra Oreo, and your free will is saying, no, I don't actually want this Oreo, and putting the bag away. That's free will in my eyes. Is sitting down and saying, no, I want to succeed in this class, so I'm gonna work on this paper right now, a week before it's due. Procrastinating is giving into the rules that free will are defined by. I don't know. Oh, I'm tired. My head hurts. Maybe I shouldn't have recorded this today. But it was on my mind. So let me know what you think, as always. Thanks so much for watching and or listening. I've been your player one, Markham Hopkins 78. This has been a short hike, and I will see you next week. And I know VGT is really the only thing on the channel right now, but I'm hoping to stream in the evenings. You know, just gotta, school's starting up, so I gotta make sure my schedule is working there before I introduce streaming into it all. Have a good one, and as always, don't forget to stay awesome. See you next week.